Good morning. Welcome to my Wednesday devotional. I hope you guys are doing great today and enjoying the fall weather. For those of us here in DC, it's very sweaty right now. We are having very high humidity, so it doesn't quite feel like October yet. For us, normally in October, it's usually like dry, a little windy, getting crispy and feeling like fall, but right now it still feels like the sweaty summer. So I'm sure you guys are hearing my fans in the background, all that noise. It sounds like an airplane. So yeah, that's just those are all my fans I still have to do. It feels like summer, but hopefully very soon it will be cooling off. All right, so anyway, hope you guys are doing great. So let's get started. We're on Esther. We are on chapter 4, verses 7 through 9. That's today. But as always, I kind of hit the rewind button a little bit and do some of the previous verses so we can kind of recall where we're at. All right, so this is from last week. This is out of Esther 4 through 6, and how it all kind of ties in for this week. All right, so when the queen Esther's maids and eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai, she was deeply distressed. She sent clothing to him to replace the burlap, but he refused it. So then Esther sent for Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs who had been appointed as her attendant. She ordered him to go to Mordecai and find out what was troubling him and why was he in mourning. So Hathach, I always get to, forgive me, Hathach went out to Mordecai in the square in front of the palace gate. Okay, because that's where Mordecai was hanging around. He was hanging outside the palace gate because, again, he was also kind of advising her. That was one reason. But the other reason was, if you recall from the previous week, you can't have mourning clothes, clothes when you are in mourning, the burlap and all that, and be inside the palace gates. So you have to be outside the palace wall. So, and that kind of ties back to everything was beautiful in the palace, and they didn't want someone walking around like that. Okay, so he had to be outside the palace gate. All right, so now here's today's verses. So Mordecai told him the whole story, including, now this is speaking of Hathach. What did I say? Hathach. Hathach. Okay. Mordecai told him, Hathach, the whole story, including the exact amount of money that Haman, remember Haman with an H, had promised to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Remember how Haman has a whole decree going, remember, in the king's stamp, okay? So Mordecai gave Hathach a copy of the decree issued in Susa that called for the death of all Jews. He asked Hathach to show it to Esther and explain the situation to her. He also asked Hathach to direct her to go to the king and to beg for mercy and plead for her people. Verse 9. So Hathach returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. Okay, what's important here? Remember how Mordecai said he was going to pay money into the treasury? That he would pay for that, for the destruction, in exchange for the destruction of the Jews. Okay, so Mordecai makes you wonder: did he really put money in, or was he wait until they were going to destruct and then he would put money in? I don't know. We're going to see how that plays out. And I don't think the Bible really gets too far into that one, but that would be kind of interesting. Can we get the bank records on Haman? That would be really, really smart. But, all right. But I guess it's not relevant right now. We'll keep going. Okay. Mordecai gave, so the copy, this is the part that I wanted you guys to see. So Mordecai gave Hathach a copy of the decree issued. Now, why is that important? Okay, remember, this is biblical times, Old Testament, even before the time of Christ. Even then, Mordecai was thinking, like a good lawyer, you always have to have the proof. Show me the proof, I remember Tom Cruise saying that in that one movie I really like, and it's blanked now, where he's the lawyer, show me what I can prove, not what I feel. So, you have to have the proof. And so he had a copy, and you always have to get everything in writing. And this is one thing I learned about government when I was in the Army. Everything is in writing. If it's not in writing, it's not happening. Power of the pen, okay? So this was really key. Mordecai gave that copy of the decree to show it to Esther, okay? Because remember, Hathach is sort of the middleman, monkey in the middle, going back and forth between these two, because, they didn't have texts or anything like that, So which would have been helpful. This probably would have been in text, right? if this was 2023. So Hathach he's the runner, okay? So Mordecai's like, Mordecai told Hathach to tell her to go to the king and beg for mercy and plead for people. Now, what would have been cool is if Esther would have had this written copy in her hands, even though Hathach has a copy. So, we'll have to get into that. But it's not here. But that would have been cool if Esther could have shown the proof. Oh, I'm kind of revealing ahead of time here, but see, this this is why I like to slow it down. I like to get into all these details. It would have been really awesome if she'd had a paper copy of this. But we'll see. We'll show you. I'll show you how this all works out. You'll see. Okay. So, and then Hathach is gonna. He returned to Esther with the message. Okay. So yeah, I think what the big takeaway here is you always have to have the proof. Especially for something this serious. You really got to have the proof. And so it was really smart. Mordecai was very smart. Mordecai and Esther, they're the good guys here, So, I think sometimes, in our Christian world, we feel like, yes, we do need to be Christ-like and we need to be humble and all those things. But at the same time, I think God also calls us, for such a time, well, you'll say, oh, I don't want to give that away. For a pivotal point in our lives where, you're going to have to wield the blade. Here's the proof. This is what Haman's about to do. And, here is the decree. Now we have a bank record, but back then, here's the decree with the proof that Haman is doing absolutely the wrong thing, So there's moments in our lives when God calls us to stand up and be counted. There's other moments where, yes, it's good to just keep your mouth shut, But in this case, for something this serious, or lives are on the line, absolutely. And, not everyone can be a hero. Everyone has their role, and everyone has their time and what's going on. You can only have really one hero at a time. The rest of us need to be the helpers, though, and see what we can do to help. And sometimes it's good to be quiet. Sometimes it's good to stand up. So that's where the filtering and discernment, the gift of discernment that God gives us to find out, do we stand up? Or do we sit down and, help maybe in the background somewhere? There's all kinds of things that we can do. All right. Well, I hope this helps. I hope this gives you something to pause about and think about as you go throughout your week for this devotional. And as always, please like, share, comment. And I thank you again for watching. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you next week. All right.